Hey folks, and I have a new editorial you need to read. It's called No, Social Media is Not All About Politics. It's people arguing over whatever disgusting sewage journalism feeds them. Now, this isn't just a rant about Twitter trolls or partisan noise. This is a deep dive into the performative absurdity of modern U.S. diplomacy, specifically Trump's tariff tantrum against Brazil, and what it really reveals about the toxic fusion of propaganda, power, and hypocrisy. I unpack why the so-called 40% tariff is 66% bluff, how it's all about protecting big tech and big soda, and why Marco Rubio's anti-Brazil obsession is less about democracy and more about playing Cold War cosplay for Florida votes. You'll hear about censorship, visa games, vendettas, and how the real circus isn't online. It's playing out in Washington, where policy has become performance art and press releases are the new foreign policy. Trust me, this one is hot. Read the full editorial, clicking on the link in the description. And if you want to understand what's really going on behind the headlines, don't scroll past it. In this biting editorial, I dismantle the illusion that the noise on social media represents actual political discourse. It doesn't. What we're seeing online is a spectacle of tribal rage, manufactured and amplified by a degraded media ecosystem that thrives on clickbait polarization and the shallow aesthetics of outrage. But let's be honest, the real theater, the real absurdity is playing out not on X or TikTok, but in the corridors of official Washington. And it's far more grotesque than anything the algorithm could concoct: the tariff bluff. The centerpiece of this debacle, Donald Trump's sudden announcement of a 40% special tariff on Brazilian goods, framed as an act of economic retaliation. But dig into the fine print and the whole thing unravels like bad theater. The implementation was delayed and nearly 700 exemptions were quietly tacked on. In the end, only about 36% of Brazil's export value is actually affected. Orange juice, aircraft, iron ore, all spared. What we have here is a textbook case of announcement over action, a bluff dressed up as bravado. Even the executive order's title, addressing threats to the United States posed by the government of Brazil, this isn't about trade. It's about ideology. Tariffs are being weaponized not as economic tools, but as props in a broader rhetorical war against Brazil's center-left government. And unsurprisingly, corporate America knows how to work the system. Coca-Cola, for instance, managed to get its juice exempted. When lobbyists win and policy is reduced to performance, you know you're not watching governance, you're watching a show. Let's talk about diplomacy, or rather the deafening absence of it. Brazil's Vice President, Geraldo Alckmin, is reportedly making call after call to Washington. The response, radio silence, what used to be the language of diplomacy, has been replaced by a series of executive orders, back channels, and blank stares. A delegation of Brazilian senators flew to D.C., only to be ignored. One of them even joked that perhaps George W. Bush could mediate. That joke stings because, frankly, Bush-era diplomacy now looks like Golden Age diplomacy compared to this circus. And it's not just Brazilians who are appalled. U.S. institutions are recoiling too. The Economist called the move shocking. Financial Times dubbed Trump the emperor of Brazil. And the Washington Post sees the whole stunt as a backfire of epic proportions. Meanwhile, a bipartisan letter from the U.S. Senate warns that these tariffs could cost 130,000 American jobs. The Consumer Brands Association says American consumers are the ones who will suffer. That's not retaliation. That's self-harm disguised as strongman politics. Then there's Marco Rubio, perhaps the most egregious character in this play. I'll say it outright. Rubio is Brazil's biggest hater, not out of principle, but out of political convenience. His worldview is stuck in the Cold War logic of Cuban exile politics. You're either with America or you're an existential threat. That binary thinking frames any independent Brazilian foreign policy, not even anti-American, just autonomous, as a betrayal. Rubio screams about Brazil's contact with Iran, China, Cuba, and Venezuela, calling it authoritarian alignment while turning a blind eye to Trump's adoration for Putin and Xi Jinping. Hypocrisy doesn't even begin to cover it. His standard for tyranny is selective, his outrage is ideological, and his loyalty is performative. He isn't just anti-PT, Brazil's Workers' Party. He's anti-autonomy. When Brazil steps outside Washington's shadow, he doesn't see diplomacy. He sees betrayal. And now that he's Secretary of State, that warped lens is setting actual policy. It gets pettier. U.S. sanctions and visa bans were quietly slapped on Brazilian Supreme Court justices, including Alexandre de Moraes, supposedly for witch hunts against U.S. companies. But the reality, Moraes didn't even flinch. His visa was expired and he holds no American assets. This wasn't punishment, it was performance. Meanwhile, Brazilian politicians like Eduardo Bolsonaro are publicly bragging about their role in this mess, cheering on scorched earth vengeance against their own judiciary. Senator Marcos Duval even claimed he was some kind of informant feeding intel to the U.S. What we're witnessing isn't diplomacy, it's grotesque national cosplay. A bunch of politicians auditioning to be Brazil's downfall, playing foreign stooges for domestic clout. In the end, this isn't just about tariffs. It's not even just about Brazil. This is about the hollowing out of political meaning. We live in a time when social media screams while real power operates in shadows, where the performance of politics has overtaken the substance of governance. The cost of this bluster and bluff isn't paid by the bullies in Washington or the sycophants in Brasilia. It's paid by ordinary people, consumers, workers, citizens, who are left to pick up the pieces of policy made in bad faith and worse theater. This is likely my first public piece where I express myself without reservation, speaking plainly. As Carlo Cipolla's law of stupidity asserts, always and inevitably, everyone underestimates the number of stupid individuals in circulation. For my complete thoughts on this subject, please refer to the link in the description